Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. We're a week into the basketball season. Purdue started 2-0 with an unexpected absence and some results that left fans with mixed emotions. We'll talk all about the basketball team's first week and pair of season opening wins. Look ahead to a showdown at Alabama here today. Plus, the football team predictably fell to Ohio State. It's now lost 8 games in a row as it prepares to head to Washington for a matchup that does have some storylines, as you may know. We'll discuss that as well. If you don't already, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at BoilersBeyond. Lots to talk about. It's going to be a busy couple of months here with basketball and football's roster turnover, personnel additions, all of that. Be sure to follow along on Twitter for all of the news and comments. Always feel free to send in questions there on Twitter or email me, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss an episode. Purdue basketball starts 2-0. It wins a pair of bye games, 82-51 over Evansville, 87-77 over Oakland, and it comes with the interesting footnote that Purdue did not play with Trey Kaufman-Renn in either game. We didn't really know that he was injured. I recorded an episode on Monday night. I had no idea that he was not going to play for Purdue this week. Sounds like a hip bruise situation. I don't know. I'm not privy to any medical details. I'm not a doctor, but it sounds like something that isn't too big of a deal, but it did hold him out of these 2 games. So that context is really important when we discuss this week of Purdue basketball because it didn't change the outcome of these games, right? Purdue won both of these games. Is it reasonable to think that Purdue could have beaten Oakland by more had it had Trey Kaufman-Renn? Yeah, of course. Same with Evansville, but what's interesting more than anything is that Purdue was playing 40 minutes per game in the smaller look with Jack Benter and Liam Murphy at the 4, whereas when Trey Kaufman-Renn is in, that's a lineup you're going to be running with for maybe 10 minutes a game. Trey Kaufman-Renn's going to play a lot. So it really changes the way Purdue plays. When you're doing it in spurts in a game, that's one thing. When that's your plan for an entire game, that's another. It's not a bad thing. It's probably a good thing in the long run that Purdue had to play extended minutes like that. That helps you if he's in foul trouble or if, you don't want another injury situation to come up. But it's not a bad thing that Purdue had to play through that. The number one impact of not having Trey Kaufman-Renn on the floor showed up, though, in rebounding. No bueno. It was not a good couple of games for Purdue rebounding the basketball. Purdue was even on the glass against Evansville. Both teams had 40 rebounds, 20 of those on the offensive end for the Purple Aces. 20 offensive rebounds by Evansville. Purdue was -2 rebounding against Oakland, 12 offensive boards there. To Purdue's credit, it got better as the game went along. Purdue was much better in the second half when it came to the glass. That's part of why Purdue pulled away and won. Purdue started making shots too. But when Purdue's playing small, when you have Jack Benter or Liam Murphy in there at the 4, you're pretty small positionally because you're small at that 4 spot. You're big at center. Oscar Clough and Daniel Jacobson are big there, but Braden Smith is smaller. He's as good of a rebounder at sub 6 foot as you'll find, but he's smaller. It's not like Purdue has these 6'7", 6'8" wings, and by no means is that what Purdue was going up against, but Fletcher Lawyer isn't the most physical rebounder. CJ Cox isn't. Omer Meyer isn't yet. it is what it is, right? It is what it is, but that's something that really showed up here. The rebounding has to improve. You can't let that happen. I thought part of it in the Evansville game was that Evansville was really bad. Like, I don't mean to demean the Purple Aces here, but Evansville made 30% of its shots from the field. It went 7 of 34 from 3. That's pretty bad. I mean, Evansville couldn't throw it in the ocean from a boat. And when you have some of these misses that are just all over the place, you're going to have some long rebounds. You're going to have the ball take some funny bounces, but Oakland shot the ball just fine. Oakland shot the ball fairly well. It's not a great three-point shooting team, but part of the problem is that Purdue has to keep the ball out of the lane better, because Purdue is in scramble defense more than it would like to be. You're never going to avoid it altogether. That's part of basketball. You're going to lose individual one-on-one matchups at times. But Purdue has to keep the ball out of the lane better. It's been interesting to see how aggressive Purdue has been picking up the basketball, because there have been some times where Purdue is really guarding 25, 30 feet away from the basket, which is great until you get beat on that first step, and then you're playing from behind, and then you're having to help, and then someone comes open, and it just dominoes into the opponent getting what's typically an open three or a pretty good look. But then when you're scrambling, you're not in the proper position to box out. You're scrambling. So there are usually spots that are open. And when you're behind on defense, the basketball gods have a funny way of sending the basketball to the area of the court that you vacated because you're behind the play. It is what it is, right? It's early on in November. It's not the end of the world that Purdue is having some issues there. And it's not the end of the world that you're over aggressive on defense. In some ways it beats the alternative, but you've seen Purdue be better blocking shots. Both Oscar Clough and Daniel Jacobson have 5 blocked shots already through 2 games. Purdue as a team has 11 blocked shots through 2 games. Purdue only had 57 all of last season. So that alone is different. It's different that you have some semblance of rim protection here that you just didn't have last season. That's a thing. That's a problem. Last season it was. This year it's better, but you don't want to rely on that, right? You don't want to rely on that because you still get behind the play and things happen. I'm interested again to see when Trey Kaufman-Renn is back in, what does that look like? Does that change things defensively for Purdue? I don't know. The 4 spot as a whole is really interesting to me right now. As I said, once Trey Kaufman-Renn is back, you're only playing without him for 10 minutes a game or so. We'll use 30 minutes as a nice round number. You probably don't need to stretch him the way you did last season to where Purdue was in real trouble when he wasn't on the floor. This year, you can probably live with some minutes without him from time to time. I think you're a little bit deeper of a team there, but you're still keeping him on the floor a lot. He's an All-American for a reason. Jack Benter and Liam Murphy don't seem like guys that can both get real minutes right now. When you just look at this, I don't know how many minutes are there at the 3 for either of them. I don't know that Liam Murphy's is capable of playing that spot. I think Jack Benter is, but Purdue's pretty set with 5 guards in its rotation right now. And again, you're not taking Braden Smith out much, and you're not taking Fletcher Lawyer out a whole lot. So these minutes are really hard to come by. I'm not sure where Liam Murphy gets on the floor a ton right now. He's a good shooter. You've seen that early on. He had a couple of really big shots in the game against Oakland. He finished that game with 11 points, 3 of 6 from 3, and had a really nice cut to the basket for a finish. But he's pretty limited. He's a one-trick pony with a really good trick. He can really shoot the ball. I think Benter's a little bit more of an all-around player. I thought he battled pretty well rebounding, given his size playing the position that he is. 7 rebounds against Oakland, 6 against Evansville. Had some really nice passes. He's at 5 assists through 2 games. Had an awesome pass from the corner to Fletcher Lawyer against Evansville. That was pretty. I think right now he's ahead in that one-on-one battle, so to speak, and it's tough because you have a shooter like Liam Murphy who's really accomplished for his career. You know he's a really good shooter because you've seen him shoot well throughout his career, but man, I just don't know. I don't know where those minutes are coming from right now. I'm curious to see how that unfolds because we've seen Purdue in the past be a little bit willing to stretch its rotation early on in the season, but it's going to tighten up around the new year when Big Ten play really gets going. What does that look like? I don't know. It's a good problem to have when you have guys that are capable of giving you good minutes that you don't have minutes for. It certainly beats the alternative of not having enough guys to play your 200 minutes. Fletcher Lawyer is off to a terrific start. There was no reason for concern there. The guy's been a really good player for the last 3 years. He's going to be a really good player again this year. 30 points against Evansville. He's made 10 threes through 2 games. Going into Sunday, only 6 players in America had made more than 10 threes so far this year. I think a few of them had played 3 games already as well. Fans are always going to nitpick him because of what he isn't, but there are not many teams in America with a better number 3 scorer than Fletcher Lawyer. He's really good at obviously knocking down threes. He did a good job of making some plays with the basketball as well that aren't just shooting threes. He's off to a wonderful start. 9 of 10 at the free throw line. He's made a couple of 2s. He's playing well. He's playing really well, and the balance he brings, the what he's able to do really makes a difference for Purdue. And of course, we can't spend every episode talking about Braden Smith, but when Purdue needed him to be really good against Oakland, he was phenomenal. Just he's special. The point guard play he delivers is, you don't see that in college basketball. I thought Oscar Clough, and there's been a lot of reaction about him early on. Some fans frustrated, not quite sure what to make of him. That stat line against Oakland is precisely what Purdue needs from him. He has 14 points on 6 shots, 9 rebounds, 4 blocks. 6 of those 9 rebounds come on the offensive end. That's what you need from Oscar Clough. You brought him in to be someone who can finish around the basket. He's not going to be a destination guy on offense. He's not going to be. You have Braden Smith, you have Trey Kaufman-Renn, and you have Fletcher Lawyer. You can only run stuff for so many guys, and you're running stuff for those 3 to go score. Outside of them, sure. I mean, you can run stuff for someone here and there, but those are your guys. Those are your best scorers. But if he can rebound, if he can finish around the rim, when Braden Smith has a dump off for him, or you do some high-low stuff like Purdue did against Oakland, whatever it may be, when he has high percentage chances, he has to make a high percentage of those. Get rebounds, protect the rim, do the dirty work. That's what Purdue needs from him. That's what Purdue needs from Daniel Jacobson, too. He missed some point-blank looks around the rim. You wonder if he's still getting a little bit comfortable there in a live game setting after he really didn't do it much last year, missing so much time with an injury. He does a great job of impacting the game defensively, though. You see, having that 7-4 string bean back there, it makes a difference. It really does. It makes a difference. Teams have to worry about that when they attack the basket. I think it was an up and down week. There's no doubt about it, because when you come in with the expectations that Purdue has, you are going to deal with a bit of a roller coaster, right? You are in a position where you expect excellence, and that's what Purdue expects from itself. Purdue has not shied away from anything about the expectations on it, about what it has on this year's roster. Purdue has embraced it all with open arms. Beating Oakland by 10 isn't ideal. I think Oakland is probably a pretty good low major team. Oakland is the type of team that you see in a 3-14, 2-15 first round of the NCAA tournament game. That's probably around what Oakland is this season. But again, you want to see Purdue throttle that team. Purdue did throttle Evansville. Evansville's terrible. That's a really bad team. I don't know what they'll do in the Missouri Valley this year. It looks like they played a non-D1 on Friday and are playing another one today. That's not a very good team. They're not good. Purdue wins by 31. If Purdue rebounds, I mean that's a whole different game. Evansville only scored 51 points in that game. 20 of those were second chance points. Purdue rebounds. That's a 40-point win, and that's with Purdue. Well, Purdue shot pretty well, I guess. Purdue shot better than I realized in that game. But, does it mean a whole lot? No. I don't think it's time to panic by any means. I think Purdue's going to be just fine. But the week ahead does get a lot more difficult. That was your last round of batting practice, so to speak, because things get real when you go to Alabama on Thursday. Alabama's 17th at Ken Pom. Ken Pom has Alabama as a 1-point favorite in that game. So you're looking at what odds makers will view as a toss-up game. Bama's 2-0. It blew out North Dakota. And then on Saturday in Madison Square Garden, it got by St. John's, a real shootout. Alabama won that thing 103-96. Just a wild game, 84 possessions. That's breakneck pace, but it is what it is. You know what you're getting when you have Alabama. Purdue's not a stranger to this team, right? They've played in the last 2 seasons. Purdue has won against Alabama each of the last 2 seasons. Purdue won that game in Toronto a couple of years ago. Alabama made 19 threes and Purdue still won. Purdue won last year in Mackey Arena. CJ Cox went ballistic. Trey Kaufman-Renn had a really good game against Alabama. Nate Oates said last year that they weren't real prepared for Trey Kaufman-Renn. I think they're going to be prepared for Trey Kaufman-Renn in this game, even though he hasn't played in the first 2. It's going to be fast-paced. Alabama's going to look to push it, and that's where taking care of the basketball looms really large for Purdue. That's where limiting second-chance opportunities looms really large for Purdue. The little things, right? When you're in a game against a team that wants to go a million miles an hour, if you have those live ball turnovers, that's a bucket for Alabama. And you have to be able to get back. You have to be able to set yourself defensively to rebound better. This is a challenge. For what Purdue's done so far, this is a challenge where some of those struggles are going to go under the microscope a little bit more. Alabama's going to shoot a ton of threes. That's part of it. When you play Alabama, they're capable of beating anybody and they're capable of losing a lot of games because they shoot so many threes. It just is what it is. It's pretty early to start looking at, data, but Bama's not shooting particularly well from 3. But it's not turning the basketball over. It's playing ridiculously fast. And it's defending all right. I mean, it's decent through 2 games at what it wants to do. And when you play a team at home, they're probably going to shoot better. Not exactly scientific there, but just anecdotally, teams tend to shoot better at home. We'll see. It's a real challenge. This is what Matt Painter schedules these games for, is to see where his team is. And it's going to be a big step up in competition. We'll find out a lot about Purdue on Thursday. And then Purdue does have a little bit of a challenge for it. It plays Sunday night, 72-hour turnaround against Akron at home in Mackey. A 7:30 Sunday night game is weird. I can't tell you the last time that's been the setup. That's strange, but It's a pretty good mid-major team. Akron won the MAC last year. The old Illinois coach, John Gross, is there. Done a really good job there. He's a good mid-major coach. And they got about everything back from last year's team that won the MAC, made the NCAA tournament. They're 73rd at KenPom. They started the season 94th, are already up 21 spots. And this is as of recording it. It can change, variably between now and then. But by no means am I sitting here saying that Purdue is on upset alert against Akron, but these are the types of teams that, are a 12 seed, are a 13 seed in the NCAA tournament that make you think a little bit, that make you sweat a little bit on Selection Sunday and for those days leading up to the first round. Akron shoots well. They play at a really fast pace, kind of like Alabama. This is one of the fastest teams in the country, looking at their KenPom page right now. Not a great defensive team by any means, but that's a challenge. That's a challenge of professionalism, because you're either going to beat Alabama on the road, and that's going to be a pretty big deal. That's going to be a really good win if Purdue can get it. That's a win worth celebrating. That's one that's going to age well, I think. Guaranteed to be a quad one win. I mean, Bama's not dropping out of the top 75 for that to be a road win, quad one. Or you lose at Bama and you have to respond when I think we all know what the tenor will be after any Purdue loss this year, right? It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows. It won't be. But, that's going to be a challenge. It's a game Purdue should win. It's a game Purdue's 15-point favorite in, looking at KenPom, but that's a test. That's not Purdue scheduling Chicago State or Southern Indiana just to pound them into oblivion or something. This is a legitimately decent team that Purdue's taking on in Akron. It goes without saying, Purdue's going to want Trey Kaufman-Renn back in the lineup. It sounds fairly promising. I have no idea. It's Sunday afternoon here that I'm recording, so I've heard nothing as to whether he's going to be good to go. But when you listen to Matt Painter's press conference after the game against Oakland, it sounded fairly promising. And I did want to point out, Antoine West hasn't officially been announced as a redshirt. The writing is on the wall there. He has not played in the first two games. Matt Painter's going to give him some time to think it through and all of that. There aren't minutes there. There aren't. Is he good enough to get minutes right now? I would say so. But with Jakari Harris, with CJ Cox, and Omar Meyer all looking ahead of him on the roster right now, on the depth chart, so to speak, with Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, there are not minutes available to justify burning the red shirt right now. It's a tricky conversation. It's something that doesn't happen a ton in the sport anymore, but I think you're going to see him end up redshirting. We'll see where things go there. I understand the first week did not go the way Purdue fans wanted to, but Purdue's 2-0. It hasn't lost a game. It didn't have a catastrophic loss. Now you go. Now it gets real. We're in the final stretch of 2025 as Thanksgiving and Christmas are just around the corner. We're all checking items off of our lists. Did you review your insurance program this year? If not, the time is now. As an Indiana Farm Bureau insurance agent, I'm here to make sure your insurance program is exactly where you need it to be. Give me a call at 317-846-5861 or email me at jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com. Let's make sure you're all set for 2026. On the football side of things, Ohio State 34, Purdue 10. There is only so much to say about this game. These are two programs that have very little in common aside from conference affiliation. Ohio State is elite in every sense of the term. It might be the best program in the sport right now. I think you're probably drawing straws between Ohio State and Georgia for that honor. This was a crazy stat that I I pulled together last night. Since 2018, when Ohio State lost at Purdue, since that loss, Ohio State has lost 8 total games. Purdue has lost 8 games since Labor Day. Purdue has lost 8 straight games now. That's as many as Ohio State has lost since October 20th of 2018. These are two programs that are just really difficult to compare. Ohio State has some of the best players in the nation. Jeremiah Smith is the best college receiver I've ever seen. He was unbelievable on Saturday. Caleb Downs is probably the best defensive player in America at safety for Ohio State. He is awesome. Julian Sayin is square in the mix for the Heisman Trophy because he has some elite players around him. He's excellent, but the guys around him help him a lot too. It's hard to really look at this and criticize a whole bunch here, but I think Purdue does a pretty good job early on in games offensively. Purdue has a really good feel for what it is and what it isn't. The problem is there's just too much of what Purdue's not able to do right now. When you're limited at the line of scrimmage, you can only scheme around that so much. And when you're limited at quarterback too, your path to success gets really narrow. Purdue scripts pretty well. If you look at the first quarter numbers, Purdue's offense is pretty good. That's been Purdue's best quarter this year. There was a chart that was going around Twitter, and I wish I would have saved it, but basically, I want to say it was an EPA chart where Purdue's offense is adding, it's a positive EPA in the first quarter, meaning it's helping the team basically. It's a long way of saying Purdue's is good in the first quarter and it's not very good the rest of the game. And you see this here. Purdue only has 186 yards against Ohio State, and 85 of those come in the first quarter. After that, these limitations really start to come out. And that's not as much of a statement about this game, because I'm not going to sit here and talk for a bunch of time about specifics from this Ohio State game, but you've seen this over and over throughout the season. It's just a reality. It's not the end of the world. It's just part of where Purdue is right now. And Ohio State's defense is phenomenal. It's giving up 7 points per game this year. Purdue got a field goal drive early on, then it had absolutely nothing until garbage time when it goes down the field and scores a touchdown. Purdue has 85 yards in the first quarter, and then it has 75 on the last drive of the game. Outside of that, just not much. Just not much at all. In the second quarter, Purdue has 24 yards, and then in the third quarter, Purdue has 20 yards. So in your middle two quarters, Purdue has a whopping 44 yards and just barely has the ball in that time either, because Ohio State put that thing into cruise control as soon as it could. It just did. Purdue was overwhelmed everywhere on the field. The offensive line didn't have a chance to do a whole lot. The wide receivers don't have the edge against defensive backs like Ohio State has. So you're really asking a lot of Purdue. It just a pretty rough day. A pretty rough day. There are game management questions. The end of first half situation is what I've seen a lot of folks talking about, where Purdue, and we're just going off the top of my head here, Purdue had a 3rd and 6 with around a minute to go, and it threw an incomplete pass instead of running the ball. Ohio State had used its last timeout. Had Purdue ran the ball and been short of the line to gain, you run more time off, and you probably don't give Ohio State enough time to score unless it has just a massive punt return. Instead, Purdue has an incomplete pass. Ohio State has about a minute to go, and it goes down and kicks a field goal. It does so really methodically, really smoothly. It was a professional drive by Ohio State. I think it's hard to really analyze Purdue because I think this staff has a very good feel for what it is, for what this team is capable of. And in these games where Purdue is not going to win, it's been pretty conservative, pretty run the clock, pretty short in the game, things like that. There's a fine line between coaching to win, coaching to compete, and coaching to not get blown out. And I think for the most part, Purdue has erred on the side of not getting blown out this year. That was a situation where I don't know. It felt like Purdue was trying to make something happen there, and it didn't. It makes no difference, right? It makes absolutely no difference that Purdue gave up a field goal there because Purdue was not going to win that game. It just wasn't. Ohio State, once that thing was in cruise control, man, the defense was dominating, and the Ohio State offense was getting what it wanted for the most part. Purdue had a nice interception. CJ Nunnally continues a great season. He's been a godsend. Transfer from Akron. He's been awesome for Purdue. But as a whole, it's not been great. It's not been what Purdue wanted in the pass rush and on the defense. But, you get a nice pick there. That keeps Ohio State off the board. It is interesting to look at Ohio State because that's a team that, if it's going to win a national title, it has like 7 games left this season. It's got 3 more in the regular season. It's probably going to play in the Big Ten title game, and then it would need to win 3 games to win a national title. There's a lot of football left for Ohio State to play. So it's not going to waste bullets in a game like this. It's not going to play more than it has to. You saw Ohio State be totally content to just set this thing on cruise control, get out of there with a win. It was what it was. I'm not quite sure what to make about Purdue's quarterback situation. This is kind of where you feared Purdue would be in a sense, because Ryan Brown has done some decent things this year. Early on in the game, on the scripted stuff, I thought he was really effective. He played well. That drive that Purdue went down and kicked a field goal on, he was great. And early on in the game, on Purdue's first drive, he had a couple of nice plays. And I believe, was that the drive where Malachi Singleton came in on a 3rd and 2 and got stopped? Maybe that was the field goal drive. I can't remember. But he was good. Ryan Brown was good early on. And you've seen him have his moments this season. But when you ask him to string it all together, it just hasn't been there yet. I don't know what Purdue will ultimately do when it comes to the quarterback position. Do you roll with him again next year, or do you look to the portal to go out and get a starter and risk him leaving subsequently? I don't know. It's quite the conundrum Purdue's in here on that, but it's bigger than him too. There's not a ton of talent at that wide receiver spot. Michael Jackson has been really good this year. Nitro Tuggle has a bunch of talent. I don't think it's all quite come together for him yet, but he's worth investing in because there is a lot of natural ability there. Outside of that, it's not been great. It's not been great. Your tight end position is a black hole without George Burren. Rico Walker did make a nice catch down the seam in this game, but since George Burren went off the field at Notre Dame, you've seen very little from Purdue's tight ends. And the running backs are what they are, right? Devin Mockabee was your best running back. He's out for the year. It's not like you were getting great production out of the running back room even with him. Makes it a little bit thinner now, and the offensive line's really limited. So it's a tough evaluation, man. I don't envy Barry Odom and company for having to determine what their plan of action is going to be there, but it has to have better quarterback play next year. It has to, whether that's Ryan Brown with internal improvement or it's going out and getting somebody. That part's almost the path to get there is whatever. It's got to get there, though. It's got to be better. Ohio State fans took over that stadium. A lot of folks frustrated about that. I say so be it to a degree, right? It's never a great image when you are having a game on TV, and especially with the way it's configured at Purdue to where the visiting sideline is opposite the press box and the visiting seating section is there behind the visiting bench. So you always see the side of the stadium that has more away fans generally. And that's how it is at most places. But for Purdue, it adds to something else that, we'll discuss at the end of the season, and that's the state of the fan base. Ohio State fans certainly bought tickets through Purdue directly when they went on sale. I know it's not uncommon for Ohio State fans to buy a season ticket so they get a better seat for when Ohio State comes to Purdue. Like that's not new. Notre Dame fans have done that too. Michigan fans have done that too. It's easier to get tickets at Purdue than it is at the Horseshoe or the Big House or Notre Dame Stadium. But, this just adds to more and more frustration. This is now what? I'm doing math in my head here. That is this 16 straight Big Ten losses? Yeah, you're 0-7, and then you went 0-9 last year. So you've lost 16 straight Big Ten games. You haven't beaten a power conference opponent since Indiana in 2023. I get it, man. I can't blame anyone who doesn't want to spend their Saturday devoted to going to games right now. It's a commitment. It's a time commitment. There are other things you can do, and that's going to be a challenge for Purdue. You can't lose the fans. When you lose the fans, you've lost a lot more than just people. And you have to keep that enthusiasm. You have to keep people invested in this program. That's really important. This week, it's the Ryan Walters revenge game. That's your storyline. That's your big, juicy storyline. It's going to be brought up on TV, maybe in the open even. I don't know. And Barry Odom's brother's on staff at Washington too. So storylines galore here, but Ryan Walters is the defensive coordinator at Washington. Washington's having a pretty decent year. It's 6-3, although it's coming off a really puzzling loss, 13-10 at Wisconsin yesterday. I believe Wisconsin's punter was the leading passer in that game. A very bad loss for Washington, who, something to watch here. Washington just saw its college football playoffs hope vanish yesterday. I don't know how realistic it was for Washington to want to be a playoff team this year, but it wasn't terribly far off. If it had won out, including its game yesterday, it's in the playoff. And now that's gone. You lost to a team that had 2 wins. You're done. So you will have to keep an eye on that. But Washington's been really interesting. It's significantly better at home than it is on the road. And that's been the case for all of these West Coast teams and all of these teams going out west. I thought it mattered a lot. And I know there were folks last year, especially when we talked about it in basketball, that were not completely sold on how much of a difference it made. But man, I mean, you start to look at this and the data tells you what it tells you. USC has really struggled when it goes east. Washington, you look at the times where it's gone east this season and it barely beat barely beat Maryland. It got blown out at Michigan, and then it just lost at Wisconsin. That's kind of the story of the conference. It's had more of an impact than I expected. It's been a big deal for these teams. But at home, it's been really solid. It's been really good. It's been a really, really good group. It only scored 6 against Ohio State. I think that's forgivable, but its last home game, it puts up 42 on Illinois. It puts up 38 on Rutgers. 59 on Washington State, who's not very good. It's a good offense. DeMond Williams is an exciting quarterback, real dual threat. He can beat you both ways. Denzel Boston's a tough wide receiver. It's got a good wide receiver room, and the defense has been all right. It hasn't been great by any means, but it's been all right. Washington's a 15-point favorite. I saw Circa Sports tweeted that out. We'll see what that line settles in at. I guess I can pull up the old DraftKings here and see what DraftKings says, but that sounds about right. Purdue's a couple touchdown underdog. I had thought it was going to be more, And it probably would have been more had yesterday not happened for Washington when it loses the way it did. I'm seeing on DraftKings a 16.5 point spread, total of 53.5. I do wonder about that over a little bit, but I'm terrible at picking games against the spread and picking totals and all of that, so don't listen to me. This is 7 games in as many weeks for Purdue. That's part of the story here. When the Big Ten schedule came out, this was the first thing that jumped out to me, is that this game particularly is in a really bad spot for Purdue. It last had a bye week in September. It's played in 7 straight weeks now. It has back-to-back weeks now played Michigan and Ohio State, a couple of really physical teams. The body blow theory, right? When you play these really physical teams, how much does it lean on you for the next week? That's something to watch here, because Purdue has not quit. The effort at Northwestern wasn't particularly good, but the last few games since then, there's been no quit. Purdue keeps fighting. Whether that's worth celebrating or not is up to you. I'm not going to tell you how to think there, but man, I don't know. I don't quite know what to make of it. We'll see. We'll see. You got 2 weeks to go. You got 3 weeks to go. This is time where your evaluation, where your decisions of what guys you're prioritizing, of what guys you're okay letting go, all of that really comes under the microscope now. It really does. This gets really important for Purdue. I don't know that you're going to win either of these games, right? It would take a big upset. You go win as a 16.5 point underdog on the road in the Pacific Northwest. That'd be a sizable upset. You beat Indiana, be a monumental upset. But can you build on anything positive here in these last 2 weeks? Can you find some good things to take away? That's what you're looking for if you're a Purdue fan. That's what you want to see. Whether it can happen or not, I don't know. But this internally for Purdue is a really important couple of weeks, and that's what it comes down to. There's not much history here, right? These two teams have played a decent amount, had a couple of bowl games, the Rose Bowl, then 2 years later, the Sun Bowl, had some home and homes in the late 80s and in the 70s, but this is the first time these two teams have met as part of the new Big Ten. Purdue's got to get UCLA now, and in rather poor luck for Purdue, the one team it didn't play the last 2 seasons was UCLA, who has not been very good the last 2 years. But, guys, that's about all I have for today. I appreciate you spending your time with me. If you enjoyed the episode, give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform, and tell a friend. Tell some of your Purdue friends in your life. Have them listen to the show. Always enjoy interacting with you all. Feel free to send over questions. Purdue football, Purdue basketball. Do it on Twitter @BoilersBeyond and follow while you're there. Or you can email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. I will be back here next week. We'll talk about Purdue, Washington. We'll talk about the basketball games against Alabama and against Akron, leading into Purdue's little MTE. Purdue will be going to the Bahamas after that. So it's the busiest month of the year for Purdue sports. We're here to talk about all of it. Until next time, enjoy this week of games, and we'll talk next time. Take care, everybody.